In part one of making a stainless sand mine knife, we made it up to the point of working on our guard. We've already got it laid out. It's time to cut the slot. Let's do it. So I figured I'd stop and show you what I'm going to do next. I've got the slot punched all the way through. Of course, it's bigger on the back side, and I left about 50 thousandths that we're going to cut and fit to size on the front side. This is a 0.125 end mill. My slot is about 0.202. So with a little math, that leaves us with about 0.077 left to cut out of there. So what I'll do is take it off of each side with this 1/8 end mill. This gives me good tight radius in the corners where I'll have to do a little bit of file work, but doing that, I can cut it to size and I'll be using my DRO. So what I got to do is take about 0.0385 off of each side. So that's what we're going to do next. Thought I'd share it with you. I use a carbide face file guide to clean up the corners and do the final tuning. I'll leave a link in the description to this file guide. Now I'll cut a radius on the top and bottom of the guard where it meets up against the shoulders of the tang. I've got about 2 thousandths left to fit up here. Now we're going to do the hot fit. I'm going to heat it up to about 1,000 degrees or to a gold, slightly purple color. If you get it too hot, you'll roll the corners. You don't want to do that. You'll create a gap. If it's not hot enough, it won't be soft enough to leave a good impression when you hammer it on. Master Smith J.W. Randall taught me this technique. So you can see the impression at the top and bottom of the guard. Should be a good fit. I just make a template out of a small piece of sheet metal or cardboard, and this is how I lay out my guard profile. Here I'm doing some layout lines to do the sculpting of the guard. This will be more like a guide when I start grinding it. Now I'll go ahead and get this handle drilled out so we can start laying it out. Go ahead and get this logo etched first. Now I'm just going to profile the handle and get it ready to lay out. I'm going to get my pinhole drill through the handle and the tang. That way I can get my lines laid out like I want them on the handle to do the profiling. I'm going to use a tool designed by my friend James Keaton over at Redbeard Ops. I'll leave a link to his YouTube. Pretty simple tool that works very effective for laying out handles. You don't need a height gauge or anything like that. This works perfect. Before I start peening the pin, I like to file the burr off around the edges of the pin where it was cut. This is a tool designed by bladesmith Nick Wheeler. It works great for peening pins. I'll leave a link to Nick Wheeler's YouTube in the description. I like to use a thin piece of stainless sheet metal to put over the pin. It's slightly larger than the pin that I'm using. This keeps me from damaging the handle material while pushing in the corners all the way around the pin. If you use something like brass, you can easily damage the handle. So I'll start working the pin around the corners and over the top until I start getting it domed and down against the handle material. You just want to take your time and make sure you don't damage your handle material. So it came out pretty smooth. I'll just lightly sand it by hand, then buff it. Always like the look of peen pins. Came out pretty good. I'll show you some final shots here in just a minute. If you got any questions about the process in the video that I did, just leave them in the comments. I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And here's some final shots.